Hello everyone, welcome. So we'll be talking about agriculture, its history, how it has changed in this video. So the race to feed the world. Food security is the guarantee of an adequate, safe, nutritious food supply to everyone. So providing this has resulted in decline of many soils and claiming most of the planet's arable land. So the industrialization of agriculture has boosted worldwide production. So what I'm trying to say that we're trying to feed everyone and we're trying to increase the food production for that. But doing that has brought a lot of pollution, a lot of soils have declined in their um, nutritious amount, and there are resource depletion. So if you look at this graph, 1960 to 2010, this is the growth relative to compared to the past, basically. So that's the world population. It's been going up. These are the vegetables. We have increased the production a lot compared to here. Basically, we have increased the production for everything, but it has caused an effect on the soils and pollution, climate overall. So we still face nutritional change challenges. So undernutrition is somebody. So right now, even though we have increased the food supply, there's still more than 800 million people suffering from undernutrition. And undernutrition is when a person is receiving fewer calories than minimum dietary requirement. So that's not the only problem. There's also overnutrition that's receiving too many calories per day. This has grown in developing countries due to abundance of cheap junk food. You know, we can get a burger for 99 cents. And sedentary lifestyle, we spend a lot of our time in front of the screens. We don't go out as much, I guess, in the nature. So excess weight leads to heart disease, diabetes, stroke, and other health issues. So none of these are good. And both of these are type of a malnutrition. Undernutrition and overnutrition is a type of malnutrition because malnutrition means you're not getting specific nutrients such as lipids, proteins, vitamins, or minerals. So, undernutrition can lead to a disease. So, look at this kid in the picture. For example, people who eat diet high in starch, but they're deficient in protein or essential amino acids, they can develop certain type of diseases like this one right here, which is a bloating of abdomen. So children who have stopped maybe breastfeeding and they're no longer getting the protein from breast milk are at risk of this disease. I think you pronounce it as kwashiorkor, which causes bloating of the abdomen, and it can also cause the deterioration of the hair, mental disability, immune suppression, such. Um, so protein deficiency together with a lack of calories can lead to marasmus. And then deficiency of iron is anemia. We all know that, and most people are deficient in iron these days. So, a deficiency of iron can cause fatigue and other, development issues. And I don't know if you guys heard about iodine deficiency. Iodine is something found in the salt. So whenever you get salt, make sure it has iodine in it because that's also needed for your thyroid gland to work. So that can cause thyroid issues if you're, not getting iodine. And vitamin A deficiency can lead to blindness. So severe undernutrition can be very fatal. And every 5 seconds, somewhere in the world, a child dies because he or she lacks access to nutritious diet. So agriculture has changed over time. Um, so we were, hunters and gatherers, and depending on wild plants and animals for food, and fiber that's we, collected and ate. So about 10,000 years ago, and this is not a long time ago, this is only 10,000 years ago, as the climate warmed, glaciers started melting, people in some cultures began to raise plants from seed, and they domesticated animals. So by sowing the seeds of wild plants, whose fruits and grains and nuts were especially large and delicious, and by breeding the animals, in plants. They created large produce for the plants, and the selective breeding for animals also resulted in, and crops actually, resulted in a lot of wild plants species, different versions of them. So this enabled development of cities, culture, and organized government. And then there was Green Revolution. Green Revolution is when they introduced a lot of new technologies and crop varieties and farming practices to the world. And the person introduced Norman Borlaug in 1940s introduced a disease-resistant high strain or type of wheat to Mexico, and they were able to triple its wheat production. And then he did the same thing for India and Pakistan. So he introduced this type of wheat. Maybe it was genetically modified. That was disease resistant, high strain, high yield strain of wheat, and that increased the production. So the Green Revolution helped increase per person food production by 48%, while only increasing land use by 11%. So there were positives and negatives to it. So the positive side was the production rose, but the negative side, so the positives was because the production rose. That way, we helped preserve biodiversity and ecosystems by preventing a great deal of deforestation. We didn't have to cut more trees to get more land to do more agriculture, and we didn't, destroy habitats. But on the negative side, there was a intensified use, a lot of use of fossil fuels, water, fertilizers, pesticides that really worsened the topsoil erosion and the pollution of the soil, air, and water. So that was the negative of it. So this is kind of showing you the production, uh, and it increased per person. And this is when they were importing that turned into exports. So that was also good. So today's world, if you go to an area where there's agriculture, crops that are planted, they are monocultures. So in India, they'd be planting rice in lots of fields together or wheat. So it's a monoculture. Monoculture means it's one type of single crop type. So this method makes the planting and harvesting efficient and increases output. But what does is it reduces biodiversity because many fewer wild organisms are able to live in monocultures than the native habitats or traditional small-scale polycultures. Poly means more than one. So when all plants in a field are the same species or genetically similar, they're susceptible to viral diseases, fungal pathogens, and insect pests that can multiply and spread quickly from plant to plant. So for this reason, monocultures are at the risk of failure. So, if maybe they're all genetically same and one plant gets sick, they're all gonna get sick. If we were all genetically same and then COVID-19 happened, then we would all, you know, it could have killed us all if we were 100% identical. But because we weren't, some people got really sick from it, some didn't get as much sick, and some even died from it. So that's genetic diversity. So sustainable agriculture consists of farming, grazing that maintain healthy soil and clean water and pollinators, genetic diversity, in addition to providing the food production. So reduction of fossil fuels and pollution is the key goals in this movement in sustainable agriculture. And the solutions to that include increase in organic farming, improved technologies, and greater use of genetically modified crops or GMs.